Folks, today I am joined by Scoot McNairy, one of my favorite actors who you know from projects such as Argo, Gone Girl, Narcos, and Halt and Catch Fire, and his new film Blood for Dust, which releases in theaters and digital on April 19th. Thank you for your time today, man.
Hey, Eric, thank you so much for having me, man.
So I actually want to start with something you've got coming up next. I actually live up the block from the bar of where a Complete Unknown is being filmed. Are you on set these days?
I'm back in California now. But no, I just got back from there like about a week ago.
You're the only character on the call sheet who doesn't have a name yet. What's going on there?
I when they released it, they said I was involved in the film. They didn't release the character. On a project like this, there's certain secrecy. I just assumed that they didn't want anybody to know, so I feel like I probably shouldn't say anything.
You aren't playing Mick Jagger, right?
That would be. I'm not gonna deny or like, but that would be awesome if I was playing Mick Jagger.
Have you heard him do the voice yet, Timmy?
Have I heard what?
Have you heard him do his voice yet? The Dylan voice.
Oh yeah, yeah. No. The only thing I can say about Timmy is I cannot. He is so phenomenal in this movie, and I just feel like this is. He's so good. Not to mention like such a great person to be around, incredibly nice, lovely to work with. But I can't wait. I only saw some bits and pieces of what he's doing with
Yeah,
Bob.
where they shot at that bar last week in that part, that's where I live. I'm like right there. All right, but let's start with your new film, Blood for Dust. I don't think I'm really breaking any ground here, which I think it reminded me a lot of one of your previous films, and that's Killing Them Softly. Did that occur to you at all?
No, not really.
Well, here's why. Here's
Tell me,
my
tell me.
I think it looks at how men react to the pressures of earning a living and surviving in the American system. To
That's a yeah, okay. I see the correlations in the yes, there's some correlations to the film's through line. I was sort of looking at it as characters. Yes.
yeah,
In Blood for Dust, it's an everyday man who's fallen upon desperate measures based on his, situation that has to do whatever he's got to do to take care of his family. Um, Frankie and Killing Himself, I just felt like it was a jackass that was just constantly making mistakes based on his own admissions, just wasn't the smartest kid in the tool shed. That being said, I feel like this world was sort of normal to him, but with Cliff,
mm,
I feel like he's has lived a sort of mundane, quiet life that, he's definitely a fish out of water in this world and doesn't feel like he really knows what's going to come next, and I feel that lended himself to really be in shock a lot of the time of trying to keep his composure together, but also being like in shock from this world that he's so far removed from. Um, that being said, I feel like the when we started Blood for Dust, it was during the pandemic, and economically it was harder times, and I still feel like we're in that same sort of time right now. So I feel like the film is very poignant for it to be, coming out right now that people can identify with in that character.
it also reminds me of, and I didn't even write this down. It just occurred to me now. Have you seen The Drop with Tom Hardy and Gandolfini?
The Drop, is that the one with the dog?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
did.
it's like this quiet, unassuming guy who, although that character is more in the criminal world, it's sort of the same thing about this quiet, unassuming guy who you never really see coming. And then at the end, he's the one who still has his head above ground, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. It's hard not to totally sidetrack. I was watching this interview the other day with Sammy the Bull, and you could be the craziest gangster in the world and just be born with empathy,
Yeah.
or not, and so sorry to sidetrack there, but there's something that's uh, I don't know, there's something that's empathetic in some of in Frankie, but in with Cliff, I don't know. I just feel like
Well, I think he's so one track minded that he doesn't have time for empathy. He's got
Yeah.
one goal here.
Yeah, he just not really, he's just thinking of how do I get out of this situation and get the money and get unscathed. I think the further and further along that he gets into it, there's a certain side of Cliff that starts to enjoy this a little bit because it's so much uh, more exciting than his normal life, and dangerous that there's a certain side that I felt as a character sort of leaning into it the further we got into that story of being deer in headlights, in shock but mesmerized.
Is there a particular draw for you? I feel like your characters are consistently unassuming men who find themselves in overwhelming circumstances and have to keep it together. Is that something that you find yourself seeking out? Like I think of Argo, or even to a lesser extent, Killing Him Softly. Like you said, he's not quiet, but he's a moron, and now he's in way too deep. You're a guy here, he's in a life he's never really known. I guess what I'm trying to get at is there a certain type of hero that you like to play? Hero in quotes, meaning they're the lead of the story.
Um, I think that every character is sort of trying to overcome something or has been called to some journey, and what's that journey he will, um, change or transpire into to something else. Um, I lost my train of thought.
What type of leads you like to play?
Yeah, I feel like they all come with some sort of thing that they need to overcome, or some journey that they get called on. I feel like that's a pretty continuous through line. I mean, it's not always often that I play leads,
Right.
so it's the same situation, but on a much smaller scale and playing other parts. But you're really there to support the leading actors, whatever journey or hurdles that they're sort of overcoming. So I don't know. I don't know. I think that maybe it's just me. So I don't know, but maybe it's just me of just finding that thing that this character is in each of these projects or all these projects that they're struggling with, that they're trying to overcome. Because you want to, in films, you really want to see somebody succeed. You know what I mean? You want to root for them, and in order to root for them, or I feel like to identify them with the person watching the movie, they feel like they have to overcome something, and that makes it identifiable, which makes you keep watching. And that's, I don't know, that I'm just, that's my interpretation.
Well, this is not to me to say that I think you always play the same character. Today, I just watched Monsters, and the type of lead you're playing in that is much different than the one in this one. But I still find them to be in similar circumstances relative to who they are. You touched on something that I was going to ask you about being the lead. Does that change the mentality you have going into a film, or are you simply just trying to put forth your best work at all times?
That's a really great question, Eric. No,
Thanks.
I think that when you're playing a lead, I think there is a certain consciousness that one needs to have about where the character is going when the character makes a transition around the second or third act, and how that they're changed. I think that's something that's really important to kind of figure out in your performance as to where you want to arc that, and sometimes it's a conversation with the powers that be of why you don't want to do something here because you want to show it off here, or build, or so. Yeah, I mean, as a storyteller, as well as an actor, as a storyteller, those are definitely conscious things that are you're constantly thinking about, of how can you tell this story and drag your audience with you. It's really important that they come with you and not just watch you. So I don't probably always nail it, but that's what I'm definitely always striving for.
What was it like staring down the barrel of Kit's stash? Because that was something.
Kit was awesome, man. He was just great. I
Was
loved.
that thing real, or
Oh
was
yeah.
that glue on? That was real.
No, no, no. He came film ready. He was great. Like the first day of work, just seeing what he had put together for this character.
Really good turn from him. Did
Oh
not see
man,
that
he got me.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming either, and so after that first day, it just got me so excited about the film and like adding this other element to it and what he was doing, and not to mention he was incredibly lovely to be around, wonderful to work with. But yeah, he just did such a incredible job with this, and it was so great to work with him, and I loved that character that he
Did
put
you
together.
know the stash was coming, or did it catch you by total surprise?
No, I think that with when you have that much facial hair in a film, I think that Rod probably went through it to make sure that everybody didn't have
I don't
a
even know what you call
goatee
that.
or yeah, so it's not the goatees club, men's club, all showing up
It's
at
like an
events.
old West gunslinger
Yeah,
mustache. I
yeah.
want to ask you about Once Upon a Time. What is something that happened to you on a Quentin Tarantino set that never happened to you before?
Just the excitement of Quentin. He's so lovely to work with, but just watching him on set direct and talk and tell stories and um, it was just different than most films you watch. It really feels like when you're making the movie, Quentin Tarantino is the star and you're
Hmm.
watching him and
He put himself on the poster.
yeah, I mean, he's so entertaining and such a cinephile that he just knows so much about movies, and so it's educational, but it's also entertaining. And not to say that other directors aren't um, entertaining, but they are in their different ways. And but working with him it was so much fun to just watch him, even when he doesn't know he's being watched. He's just a really entertaining individual.
That's a film that I walked into expecting it to be like Pulp, right? And I just remember this unique feeling of walking out kind of bummed at the time, but in the years since, it's grown on me and grown on me and grown on me. And now I have it in my top three of his films. And I watch probably two, three times a year. So I threw on your scene today, and it is like basically the ultimate Tarantino scene. It's a meta
Mhm,
Western with
mhm.
Leo and Timothy Oliphant. Do you have like an out of body experience in that kind of moment? Like, what's going through your head? Where because you are a strong, well known, working actor, but right there, that's like the zenith of your craft, right? So what's going through your mind in in those moments?
Don't screw up, you know. Don't just try and be comfortable. I mean, Timothy Oliphant was so amazing, man. They didn't give you the script for this movie, and I didn't get it. So he kind of saw that I was like, "What's going on? I know I got this scene." And he came over to me. That's the first thing out of his mouth. He's like, "They didn't give you the script, did they?" And I was like, "No." He goes, "All right, let me sit down and talk." And he sat down for 10 minutes, man, and told me as much information as he could about it to help me out. So he was great. And then obviously working with Leo, man, I that guy is the cream of the crop, greatest actor in our business in years, and he's constantly doing new things. So I've been watching him for years, been a fan of him for years. So yeah, no, absolutely, it was really great to be able to come in and do something that was with him, or just be in a movie that he's in.
Another iconic director you have worked with is David Fincher on Gone Girl. Basically, everybody who's worked with Fincher seems to have a David Fincher story, right? Of him, 10,000 takes or moving some little thing in the background. Do you have one? What pops to mind?
Um, I
You don't have to get yourself in trouble either, to be clear.
well, I'll say this, like, he does do a lot of takes, which I like, and I enjoy just going and going and going and going. But that said, it's me talking pretty much the whole time to Ben. Well, Ben doesn't say anything, so eventually he fell asleep, you know, and he's tired, he's working long days and stuff. So it was me just running my mouth and stuff. And so I just looked over one time and saw that Ben was kind of dozing off, you know what I mean? It didn't bother me at all, but I look back and think that was such a, an interesting moment. David come in and he's just great, man. He's like so specific and so detailed. He was just, and again, he's was on my list of people I really wanted to work with. So I was just elated to be there.
I'm sorry for going through your greatest
No.
hits here, man. But Argo, Best Picture. At what moment does it occur to you? Oh shit, I'm on a special film here.
I was sitting in a bar in Murray, Australia, shooting the Rover, and I had a day off. There was nothing out there. And everybody's horse gambling on these TV screens. There's only about 5 people in the bar. And all of a sudden, the Academy Awards come up, you know? And I saw it in a tiny bar with 4 minors.
But I'm saying more so to yourself. When did you realize, like, oh fuck, this film's gonna be really good? Like at what point does it occur to you that you're not only working on a good movie, you're maybe working on a Best Picture type film?
I don't know. I don't. You never know, man. Like you can
You
take
really
the
don't know. You really don't know
you
until
really don't
it's done
know.
and cut. Wow. Okay.
You can take the one that you think is gonna be the thing, and then this thing over here, you just don't know. I think you just sort of pick them based on like what movies I like what movies I would go see that movie. So I want to be a part of making that movie. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, I grew up, right when they were winning their Academy Award. I was probably 16 years old. So I've been watching those guys for years and just had so much admiration for them. So to be on one of Ben's movies he's directing, again, man, I was just so stoked to be there and so stoked to be working with Ben and this movie. And it wasn't till that it, started getting critically acclaimed and then the awards, that, I don't know. I think the industry or the middle America or the world tells you if they like your movie. You don't really get to tell them,
Yeah.
I don't know, this is a good movie. Y'all just don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? So it was received well and I was just really happy to be in it.
I asked you about A Complete Unknown. You also have a film called Night Bitch coming out. There was this very funny graphic that came out of CinemaCon of like Disney's films next year, and it was like, Marvel, whatever, and then there's boom, Night Bitch. So tell me, how'd that go? How's that looking? Are you psyched for it? How's
Um,
Amy Adams in what I'm
oh,
sure is a fucking
man.
gonzo performance?
Gonzo. I mean, she's phenomenal. I mean, she's great in everything, so it's hard to say that this is the best thing she's ever done, but it's definitely up there. She was lovely to work with, lovely to be around. Mari Heller, who wrote the adaptation from the book, I just think has made a very unique film, and I don't think people really know what they're going to see when they go see this film. I was able to see it, I don't know, about a month ago or something, and just loved it. I just loved it. I couldn't feel like it was more accurate and more um, sort of grounded in this ungrounded in a way. I don't want to say too much about it because I just don't think people know what this movie is going to be, and I think it's better to go in with knowing nothing about it.
Totally, totally fine. I mean, the name and plot alone is enough to put an ass in a seat. Scoot, as I said at the top, you're one of my favorite performers. There's been this meme going around on Twitter where it'll just be like very famous supporting actors, and the caption will be, dudes will see this and just say, hell yeah. You are absolutely one of those guys.
No way. That's amazing.
You are one of those guys, man. You pop up on screen and dudes are just saying hell yeah all over the place.
Oh man. Well, Eric, I can't thank you enough for all the kind things you said and also for taking the time to speak with me for this interview, man.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
been really enjoyable talking to you.
Thanks, man. Scoot, cheers.